Okay, I just want you all to know that rest assured I did not make a mistake up to this point. I just wanted to double check before we got too far down this road as to what we were doing. So, here's the deal. You are not going to want to add either of these together. Adding either one of them together is going to change either your 0 or your 1, and we don't want to do that. So adding those rows together will not get us anywhere. Okay? So that kind of freaked me out to start. So what am I going to want to do? Well, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. Okay? I am going to go ahead and choose to get a 1 right here. So I went ahead and got a 1 right there by taking this entire row times a -2. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to do -2 row 3, and I'm going to make that my new row 3. So again, everything else is going to stay the same. So I'm going to go ahead and copy down. Okay, and I didn't even copy it right. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry you guys. I am losing my mind. Let's go back. I didn't even write it down right. So my row 1 is 1, 3 halves, 1 half, 1 half, 0, 0. Then we've got 0, 1, 0, -1, 0, 1. And this is the row that I'm going to multiply by -2. So 0 times -2, still 0. -3 halves times a -2 is 3. -1 half times a -2 is 1, which is what I want there. And then -3 halves times -2 is 3. Okay, -1 times -2 is -2, and 0 times -2 is still 0. So I'm getting to where I want to be. Now I've got 0, 3, 1, and so I'm going to work on getting this to be a 1 because I have 0 and 0 here. So if I add these two rows together, it's not going to change anything about that third row or anything about the second. So I'm going to do -3 row 2, and I'm going to add that to row 3, and that's going to be my new row 3. So I'm going to copy down row 1 and row 2 again. Okay, -3 times 0 plus 0 is still 0. -3 times 1 is -3, plus 3 is 0. -3 times 0 plus 1 is still 1. -3 times a -1 is 3, plus 3 is 6. 0 times -3 is still 0 times -2, that's a -2. 1 times a -3 is -2, plus 0, or plus 0 is -3. Okay, getting to the end, I've got my last two things that I want to figure out. Now that I have a 1 below here and a 1 below here, I'm just going to do -1 half times this row and add it to that row, and then I'm going to do -3 halves times this row and add it to that row, and that will get me my zeros. And because I have zeros in all the correct other spots, nothing else is going to change. So we're going to end up doing these two things: -1 half row 3 plus row 1, that's going to become my new row 1, and then down here we're going to do another step, but these are my last two steps to this problem. We're going to make it through. So my row 1 is what's going to change. So I am doing negative 1/2 times this. So negative 1/2 times that is 0. Negative 1/2 times that is 0. So these first two entries are not going to change. Now negative 1/2 times 1 is negative 1/2, plus 1/2 would get me 0. Now, negative 1/2, sorry guys, can't see. Negative 1/2 times 6 is negative 3 plus 1/2 is going to be negative 5/2. Remember, I told you to write them as fractions. Negative 2 times the negative 1/2 is 1, plus 0 is 1. Okay? Then negative 3 times the negative 1/2 is positive 3/2 plus 0. That's going to be 3/2. Last step, I need to get a 0 here. So I'm going to do negative 3/2, row 2, plus row 1, new row 1. So 0, 0, 1, 6, negative 2, negative 3, 0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, and 1. Okay. 0 times anything is 0, so that's still going to be 1. Here, 1 times negative 3/2 is going to be negative 3/2 plus 0, or plus 3/2 gives me 0. This one's also going to be 0. So now, negative 1 times negative 3/2 is 3/2 plus negative 5/2 is a negative 1. Okay. Then 0 times negative 3/2 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay. 1 times negative 3/2 is negative 3/2 plus 3/2 is 0. I just went through that whole thing without leaving that up there. I am so sorry. Okay, so I now have my inverse matrix on this side, or excuse me, the identity matrix, and here is my inverse matrix. So negative 1, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1, and 6, negative 2, negative 3. Now, way back at the very beginning of this video, the question was asking, use the inverse matrix to solve this. Well, now we have our inverse matrix. So how do I use that to solve it? Okay, here is what you have to do. You take your inverse matrix and you multiply it by your solutions, and that gives you your matrix of answers. Okay, what do I mean by solutions? These are the numbers you didn't use back at the beginning. So here's our matrix, okay, without those, and we need to use these numbers as our solutions. So we are literally going to take our inverse matrix, which was negative 1, 1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1, 6, negative 2, negative 3, and we're going to multiply it by those solutions, which are negative 1, 1, and negative 2, and that is going to give us our answers. And if you look, this is a 3 by 3. This is a 3 by 1. These numbers match, what they have to if you're multiplying, and the 3 and the 1 tell me my new solution, or my new matrix is going to be a 3 by 1. Okay, so that means I'm going to get 3 numbers in one column. And this first number will represent my X solution, Y solution, Z solution. So this would be where you could just use your calculator like I showed you how to do in class yesterday. So you would go to matrix, so second matrix. Remember the matrix button is right here. And then I would edit A, and I'm going to put in my inverse matrix. And if you just type, it will type directly over your answer. Okay, so there's my inverse matrix entered. Now I'm going to go back to matrix, and I'm going to edit the second matrix. And I want that to be a 3 by 1. Okay, there's my second matrix, and I'm going to quit. I'm going to do matrix A times matrix B. I'm going to hit enter, and there are my solutions to that system. So 2, -1, 2. So x is equal to 2, y is equal to -1, and z is equal to 2. Okay, so that was the process of how you solve a system by inverse matrices.